Yeah, let's hope that this comes out. We had originally the Turkish Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu wanted to come here, but of course, due to the situation in the country, he had to stay home. But let's hope that this will lead to something, because this border was closed for far too long, and we have to come also to improvement for the relations there. Now to the elephant in the room, if you allow me. This is, of course, the question that President Aliyev alluded to at the very beginning, the war that started, is it 2 years ago already? And we see a situation which is still very critical. We are not here to do any negotiations, but of course we are. When you look at it, the outside, the international community, we are concerned about the humanitarian situation, and one looks always, as we have been looking right now with regard to humanitarian aid to Turkey, we are looking at humanitarian steps. We see the Lachin corridor that is seen from the outside blocked, and we wonder, and maybe Prime Minister, you can tell us a bit about maybe efforts to have some confidence building measures there to see that somehow the situation improves. And we would, of course, all, and afterwards I would like to turn to President Aliyev again, we would, of course, like to see that through some small steps we come to a de-escalation and come closer to a resolution of this conflict.
Thank you. You're right. It's already 70 days that the Lachin corridor is blocked, and now, unfortunately, we have a humanitarian crisis in Nagorno-Karabakh and energetic crisis as well, because electricity supplies to Nagorno-Karabakh have been shut down, and the gas supplies as well have been shut down, and we counted, and during last 70 days the gas supplies were cut at least 10 times, and it is the problem that should be addressed. And our position is that in the trilateral statement from the 9 November 2020, we have very precise provisions connected with Lachin corridor, and according to that statement, it is the obligation of the Azerbaijan and Russian peacekeepers to keep Lachin corridor operable. But now, unfortunately, we have a totally different situation. And I meant Lachin corridor as well, saying that international attention should be kept on this situation, because we are afraid that continuation of this situation can cause unturnable humanitarian consequences for Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh.
President Aliyev, as I said, we are not here. We cannot negotiate the substance of the agreement and how to come to a final conclusion. I think the President of the European Council has been working with you on this. We don't want to get into this. My question is just, do you see, because you were saying that we should use this opportunity now to come to a more stable situation. Can you do some humanitarian gestures so that this blockade is being stopped, and the people that, according to what the Prime Minister is just saying, are in Nagorno-Karabakh are living in very difficult circumstances? Is that something you can do as kind of a goodwill measure, confidence building, so that talks have a chance to succeed in with regard to the more substantial questions that, of course, are not resolved yet.
As far as we understand, and in our communications with our American partners and partners from European Union, and also as far as I understood from today's trilateral meeting with Prime Minister Phashinyan, which was organized by Secretary Blinken, we have a common understanding that there should be a two-track approach to the situation in the region. First, Azerbaijan-Armenian peace talks track. Second, Azerbaijan's communications with Armenian population in Karabakh. Just for your information, the word Nagorno-Karabakh is no longer valid. This is actually the Russian word. Nagorno means mountainous. And in Azerbaijan, there is not such an administrative unit like Nagorno-Karabakh. Therefore, of course, I would like to ask our partners to respect the sovereignty and constitution of Azerbaijan. There is a Karabakh region of Azerbaijan where there is an Armenian population. So this two-track solution actually separates our talks with Armenia from our internal issues like our communications with Armenians in Karabakh. And also it was agreed with our international partners that there'll be discussions on rights and securities of Armenian minority in Karabakh. And we are ready to do it, but with those representatives of Armenian community who lived, who were born, and who lived in Karabakh throughout their life, but not with a person who was exported from Russia to have the leading position in Karabakh. Maybe exported is not the right word. I would probably prefer the word smuggled into, because nobody knows how he emerged in Karabakh and how he is trying and achieving to go back to Yerevan and from there to Moscow and then back to Yerevan and then to Karabakh. Only this fact demonstrates that there is no blockade. Second fact which demonstrates that there is no blockade is that since 12th December until today, when our activists from civil society came to the checkpoint, there have been more than 2,500 vehicles, including trucks, of Russian peacekeepers and the representatives of Red Cross. Almost 100 medical patients from Karabakh were taken by Red Cross to Armenia for treatment. So how can we call it a blockade when there is an open road? And if Armenians in Karabakh try to use this road, I'm sure no one will stop them. So this is important to understand the current situation. And also, in order to properly evaluate the current situation, we need to go back a little bit to the history. For almost 30 years, our lands were under Armenian occupation. Prime Minister Garibashvili mentioned that in 2008, after the Russian-Georgian war, there were no sanctions imposed on Russia. But I also can say that Armenia occupied 20% of Azerbaijan's territory, violated international law, did not comply with UN Security Council resolutions for 27 years, and no sanctions were imposed on them. And we always were asking for sanctions to Armenia to be imposed to avoid the war. We were waiting for Minsk Group to deliver result. We were waiting for Security Council of United Nations to respect their resolutions. But we thought that there is no movement, and there is a common understanding that this conflict is frozen. So we proved that it is not frozen. We had to fight. We have to sacrifice 3,000 lives in order to restore our dignity, our territorial integrity and justice, and implement UN Security Council resolutions. Therefore, we cannot take out of the context today's situation in Karabakh or our communications with the Armenian community there, and just forget about 30 years of occupation, forget about that the territory equal to the territory of Lebanon is totally in ruins. And that was done not by aliens, that was done by our neighbors who came, occupied our land, made 1 million Azerbaijanis homeless, destroyed 65 out of 67 mosques, desecrated them, and then when we kick them out, they now plea for justice. They accuse us of occupation, those who occupied us for 30 years. And also one thing is also should not be forgotten, that the trilateral declaration of November 2020, which Prime Minister referred to, actually de facto, is a capitulation act by Armenia. We fought the war, and the results of the war have been accepted by international community and by Armenian society. And the best indicator to that was a new mandate which Armenian population gave to Prime Minister. And that was a mandate for peace. Therefore, we need to look to the future. And I think that if we look to the future, and today is, as we discussed just prior to the session, is a historical day because for the first time free leaders get together in the independent countries. There was cases like that during the Soviet times. And we should not miss this opportunity. Karabakh Armenians are Azerbaijani citizens, a minority. Azerbaijan is a multi-ethnic country, and all minorities in Azerbaijan enjoy same rights and privileges, including cultural, linguistical, and any other, and also security. And we're ready to start practical communications with representatives of Armenian community in Karabakh. And today, in front of Secretary Blinken, I told my Armenian colleague about that, but we can do it only when Russian citizen, criminal oligarch, person who was involved in money laundering in Europe, Vardanyan, is out of our territory.
Now, as I said, we cannot negotiations here, but I would like to give the Prime Minister Pashinyan, a possibility to react to what he heard from President Aliyev. And then also I would like to give the audience, of course, a chance to ask questions and to the panelists. Prime Minister.
Thank you. About Nagorno-Karabakh, you know, President mentioned trilateral statement, and on that trilateral statement we have provision, and we have Nagorno-Karabakh on trilateral statement, and we have signature of the President of Azerbaijan under this document. And we have Lachin corridor that should be freely operable. And by the way, according to that trilateral statement, out of control of Azerbaijan, and it is according to the signature of President of Azerbaijan. And recently, you know, some Armenians children from Nagorno-Karabakh, they tried to travel by bus through Lachin corridor, and they were stopped and masked some Azerbaijani persons with masks intruded into bus, and children there were screaming. And that was the last attempt of the Armenians on Nagorno-Karabakh to freely commute through Lachin corridor. President Aliyev mentioned destroyed mosques. You know, I would like to say that in 2017, in Azerbaijan, several mosques were destroyed for building new roads. And President Aliyev mentioned that several, I don't know how many thousand mosques that were destroyed. And by the way, in the Soviet time, And when in Azerbaijan, approximately 1,560 mosques were destroyed. And that it was the usual thing for Soviet Union. In Armenian in Soviet time, churches were destroyed, mosques were destroyed, and you know, Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh, they shouldn't pay the debts from the Soviet time. And you know, it's very important. It is very dangerous narrative, because I'm afraid sometimes there is an impression that Azerbaijan want to give some religious context to this whole situation. It is very dangerous. There is no any religious context in the conflict, and the proof is that that we have very good. And by the way, in our country, we have Muslim minority, and we have in our country acting mosque, and that is the reality. And you know, the wording of Azerbaijan, what is concerning. Using the wording of such kind of almost offensive wording, capitulation, etc. You know, from a side, it can be impression that now Azerbaijan want to show that, and that is maybe reality, that Azerbaijan adopted a revenge policy. You know, revenge policy, and maybe that is the policy of Azerbaijan. But as it was mentioned, we have very complicated history, and I just said, yes, maybe it is historical meeting, but for what purpose we want to use this? For inflaming intolerance, hate, aggressive rhetorics in our region, or in opposite, we want to use this platform for making things better. We think that this platform vote to be used for constructive purposes. Of course, we can now tell many stories of enmity, but what is the meaning of our leadership? To deepen that enmity, or to use our capacities, our authorities, our mandates. I'm proud that I've been able, our government was able, even after the devastating war, to have free democratic elections in our country that was worldwide acknowledged as free, democratic, and transparent and competitive. And as I said, from our point of view, is the solution is democracy, the solution is transparency, the solution is dialogue, the solution is respect for all countries in our region. And we are ready to work to that direction. Thank you.